I met her during my second year at university. She was the kind of woman who caught your eye and didn't let go. Confident, charismatic, and unreasonably beautiful. We met in a literature class. Fitting, I suppose, since irony would become the theme of our story. Our relationship took off fast. Within 6 months, we were inseparable. Within 2 years, married. At the time, it felt like fate. The first few years of marriage were good. Not perfect, but good. We had our arguments like everyone else, but nothing that felt threatening to the foundation. We moved into a modest house just outside the city, got a dog, and even talked about starting a family. I had a stable job in IT. She was a freelance graphic designer. We weren't rich, but we were comfortable. Happy, I thought. I started noticing changes about a year ago. Subtle at first. Her phone was suddenly always face down. She started wearing perfume every time she left the house, even for something as casual as grabbing groceries. There were late-night client calls and deadlines that required overnight work sessions at her studio downtown. I told myself I was overthinking. Paranoia. Maybe I was projecting my own stress onto her. She smiled when she spoke to me, laughed at my bad jokes, still kissed me goodnight. But her eyes stopped lingering. She changed her phone password. That was the first concrete sign. Asked why. She shrugged and said something about security and how she read about people getting hacked. Logical. But then she started taking her phone into the bathroom, would jump at notifications, and swipe them away when I glanced over. One night, while she was asleep, I picked up her phone. I didn't try to unlock it. I just stared at it, a slab of secrets. I remember setting it down and going to the kitchen to sit in silence. That was the moment I knew. Something was wrong. I spent the next few weeks observing. I didn't ask questions, didn't start fights. Just watched. I noticed she always made sure she left the house before me on Wednesdays and Fridays. Always came home later on those days. Her mood varied wildly after these absences, sometimes distant, sometimes oddly affectionate. Like guilt playing tug-of-war with denial. Then I saw it. A message preview on her laptop she left open. One of those quick email notifications. Can't wait to see you again. Last night was, that's all it said before it disappeared. But that was enough. I didn't confront her. Not then. I wanted more. Needed confirmation, not just suspicion. I did something I'm not proud of. I followed her one Friday morning. Called in sick, waited in my car down the street. She kissed me goodbye, said she had back-to-back meetings. Wore that black coat I always said made her look like a movie star. I followed her downtown, expecting her to go to her studio. She didn't. She parked 2 blocks away and walked to a high-rise apartment building. Buzzed in like she'd done it 1,000 times. I waited 2 hours before leaving. My chest felt tight. It wasn't just the betrayal, it was how effortlessly she lied to me, how natural it seemed to her. I didn't cry. I just drove home and sat in the living room for a long time. That evening, she returned, acting like nothing had happened. Asked if I wanted Chinese or Thai for dinner. I said I wasn't hungry. She barely noticed. I went through her email that night. I knew her old passwords. She must have thought I'd never bother checking. Most of the conversations were mundane, business-related. Then I found a folder labeled Inspiration. Inside were forwarded messages from someone named A. Flirty, intimate, borderline poetic. There were pictures. Nothing explicit, but enough to gut me. Them at a park. Him holding her waist, both of them laughing like they were the only people in the world. She never smiled at me like that anymore. I printed everything. Every email, every photo. Put them in a folder. I didn't want to scream. I didn't want to cry. I wanted clarity. I wanted finality. I didn't sleep that night. I stayed on the couch, listening to her breathing softly in the bedroom, unaware that her entire world was about to collapse. I went to work the next day. Played it cool. Came home with takeout. Ate dinner with her. She talked about some project she was working on. I nodded, smiled, even kissed her forehead. She looked surprised, like she wasn't expecting affection. Maybe she thought I was finally detaching, and that made her feel safe. She had no idea I had already made up my mind. I called a lawyer the next morning, set an appointment, explained everything. He didn't even blink. Said it happens more than anyone wants to admit. Asked for a clean, no-contact divorce. I didn't want to negotiate. I didn't want alimony, property debates, none of it. Just freedom. He said it could be done. It would take a few weeks to finalize, but I could serve her whenever I was ready. I waited another week, played the part, laughed at her jokes, helped her fix the leaky sink, even watched one of her terrible true crime documentaries. It wasn't spite, it was detachment. I was done. The part of me that loved her was gone. Not buried, just gone. Like it had never existed. On a rainy Thursday, I left the divorce papers on the kitchen table, right beside her favorite mug and the protein bars she always forgot to eat. I didn't leave a note. Didn't pack loudly. I left before sunrise, took my essentials, and drove to a hotel across town. Turned off my phone. Blocked her number. Deleted her social media. Ghosted her completely. The morning after I left, I expected chaos. Missed calls, voicemails, a string of texts. Instead, silence. Not a word. It wasn't until late evening that I got the first message. "Where are you? What is this?" Followed by, "I don't understand. Please call me." I didn't respond. She kept trying calls, emails, even messages through mutual friends. I ignored them all. I wasn't interested in explanations. I already knew enough. 3 days later, she showed up at my workplace. I saw her through the glass doors before she entered, her eyes red, makeup smudged. I asked security to tell her I wasn't available. She left a note with the receptionist. "I'm sorry. Please just talk to me." I threw it in the trash without reading the rest. There was no part of me that wanted to hear her voice anymore. She didn't stop. She tried contacting my parents, my sister, sent long, emotional emails, paragraphs of apologies, denials, contradictions. It was just emotional, she claimed. I didn't mean for it to happen. She called it a mistake, then said it wasn't serious. Said she was confused. Then she begged. Promised therapy. Promised to end it. Promised to fix things. But every word reeked of desperation, not remorse. There was no honesty in her apologies, only the fear of consequences. I agreed to meet her once. Not for reconciliation. For closure. We sat across from each other in a quiet corner of a coffee shop. She looked tired. Hollow. Like a version of herself had been scraped out and replaced with someone desperate to be believed. She asked why I hadn't given her a chance to explain. I told her I didn't need her version. That her silence during the relationship told me everything I needed to know. She started crying. Not the kind of tears that come from regret, but the kind born from panic. She said she felt lost. That she didn't know how it escalated. Claimed she never stopped loving me. I asked her one question. Would she have told me if I hadn't found out? Her silence answered more than words ever could. She looked down, wiped her face, and said, "Probably not." That was the moment she realized it was really over. I told her I'd already filed the papers. That the only thing left to do was sign. She asked if we could go to counseling first. She said we owed it to the years we'd built together. I said she'd already made the decision when she walked into another man's apartment. She said it wasn't about him. That she felt neglected. That I'd been distant. I reminded her that I had tried, through late nights, exhaustion, sacrifices, while she was giving pieces of herself to someone else. She didn't deny it anymore. She just nodded. Said she understood. Asked if I hated her. I told her no. I didn't hate her. That would have required more energy than she deserved. I just didn't care anymore. She whispered, "I wish you would have fought for me." I said, "You made sure I couldn't." The conversation ended with her signing the papers. No theatrics, no last-minute pleas. Just a quiet shuffle of paper, the scratch of pen against the lines that used to bind us. She left before I did. I watched her walk away, without turning back. There was nothing left to say. Over the next few weeks, she tried again, less often but still persistent. She sent letters, some handwritten, some typed. Pages of self-analysis, confessionals, justifications. I read none of them. I kept them in a drawer, unopened, reminders of a past I refused to re-engage with. Friends told me she wasn't doing well, that she was falling apart. I didn't ask for details. There was a rumor she broke things off with the man she was seeing, that it had ended badly. Some said he was married too. Others said he ghosted her the moment things got serious. Either way, it didn't matter. I wasn't looking for karma. I wasn't interested in revenge. I just wanted distance, peace. I moved into a new apartment, changed my number, left no forwarding address. She never showed up again. She had no way to reach me now, and I intended to keep it that way. There's a finality in silence that words can't match. Let her sit in it. Let her learn something from the emptiness she once handed to me so carelessly. Some mutual friends reached out, asked if I'd consider talking to her one last time. Said she had changed, that she'd gone to therapy, found religion, found guilt, found every excuse under the sun. I told them I wasn't interested, that healing doesn't require revisiting the wound. My lawyer called a few days later to confirm everything was finalized. No contest. No negotiations. Clean break. He asked if I wanted any final documentation mailed. I said no. Let it be done. Let it dissolve like it never existed. I went home that night, poured a drink, and sat alone in the quiet. For the first time in years, it felt like mine. No lies humming beneath the surface. No weight pressing against the silence. Just stillness. That night, I slept without waking once. The silence between us became permanent. She tried reaching out one final time, a long email with a subject line that just said, please. I deleted it without opening. Blocking her wasn't cruelty. It was preservation. She had already taken enough from me. I didn't owe her one more second of my peace. But that didn't mean it was easy. The absence echoed louder than her presence ever did. There were days the quiet weighed more than the betrayal. Not because I missed her, but because I had to unlearn the habit of her. You don't realize how much of your life becomes automatic until you have to strip it all away. Coffee in the morning, 2 cups instead of 1. Checking my phone, expecting a message that would never come. Every small detail was a ghost. It wasn't heartbreak. It was erasure. The first few nights alone in the new apartment were the worst. I wasn't used to the silence. No soft footsteps from the kitchen. No half-muttered complaints about the neighbor's dog. No arguments about dishes or bills or weekend plans. Just me. And every second stretched long and hollow. I tried watching shows we never watched together. I changed the layout of my bedroom. I rearranged my life so it wouldn't remind me of her. But the truth is, she was everywhere for a while. Not as someone I missed, but as someone I was trying to forget. Mutual friends started dropping off. Some stayed neutral, some picked sides quietly. A few checked in just enough to say they tried. One of them told me she was spiraling, that she wasn't eating, that she cried during conversations, that she said she never expected me to actually leave. That part hit me, not because I cared, but because it confirmed something. She never thought there would be consequences. She thought I'd get angry, maybe yell, maybe sleep on the couch for a week. But she didn't think I'd walk away and never look back. That's what broke her. Not the guilt. The fact that I refused to play my part in the drama she subconsciously created. I didn't confront the other man. I didn't demand answers. I didn't fall apart in front of her. I didn't ask why. I just left. She was waiting for a performance. I gave her nothing. I found myself remembering small details, not because I missed them, but because they suddenly felt foreign. The way she used to hum while folding laundry. How she always ordered dessert and only ate 2 bites. The tiny, meaningless rituals we shared that now seemed ridiculous. I wondered if she remembered them too, or if she had already rewritten everything in her head. Painted herself as the misunderstood woman who made a mistake but didn't deserve abandonment. She probably told that version to others. Maybe even believed it. I didn't talk about her to anyone. When people asked, I gave short answers. We split. It's over. Don't want to get into it. The more I avoided the story, the more control I had over it. Telling it would have meant reliving it, and I wasn't interested in that. Closure didn't require conversation. It required distance. She sent a message through a friend once. Said she hoped I was doing okay.
Said she still thought about me.
I asked the friend not to deliver anything else on her behalf. If she needed to talk to someone, she had her therapist or her journal. I was no longer her outlet. There was a strange sense of power in becoming unreachable. I had spent years being accessible, emotionally available, supportive. And in the end, none of that mattered. So I flipped the script. I gave her the one thing she never expected, complete indifference. I saw her once, months later, purely by accident. She was at a bookstore I walked into after grabbing coffee. We locked eyes. She froze. I didn't. I nodded politely and walked past her. Didn't say a word. I didn't need to. Her expression said enough. She looked like someone who had rehearsed a conversation for months and just realized she'd never get to say her lines. I felt nothing. No anger. No sadness. Just a brief, passing flicker of familiarity. Then it was gone. That night, I finally opened the folder I had kept, screenshots, printed emails, photos. The evidence I once used to prove to myself that I wasn't crazy. I looked at every page. And then I burned it. Not out of ceremony or rage, but because I didn't need receipts anymore. The story was over. The ending was final. And no amount of rereading would change that. I didn't date for a long time. Not out of fear or bitterness. I just needed to be alone. I needed to hear my own voice again. Figure out who I was outside of husband, partner, the guy who got cheated on. I wasn't broken. Just tired. And I wanted peace more than I wanted company. Eventually, the nights got easier. The silence became familiar, then comforting. I stopped replaying things. Stopped checking mutual friends' pages. Stopped wondering if she was sorry. None of it mattered anymore. She became someone I used to know. A chapter one wouldn't reread. I didn't feel victorious. This wasn't a win. It was just survival. But there was a quiet pride in knowing I didn't retaliate. I didn't beg. I didn't chase after someone who discarded me so easily. I left with my dignity. And that, in the end, was enough. What she did no longer define me. But how I responded, calmly, completely, and with finality, did. It's strange how the end of something so significant eventually folds into the background of your life, like it never happened. I thought the betrayal would leave a permanent mark, but over time, it just became noise. Dull, distant, irrelevant. I never expected closure to come without some dramatic realization or final conversation, but it did. In the quiet, in the monotony of ordinary days that didn't hurt anymore. Work picked up. I took on more projects, stayed busy, not to distract myself, but because I finally had the mental space. The weight I didn't know I was carrying had lifted. There was no one to account for, no moods to navigate, no lies to anticipate. I could breathe again. The simplicity of being alone became a gift, not a punishment. I woke up without anxiety. I moved through my days without constantly analyzing someone else's actions. That freedom, I realized, was worth more than the illusion of love I had clung to for so long. I started saying yes to things again. Dinner with old friends, spontaneous weekend trips, even small talk with strangers. I wasn't looking for anyone, but I was open, genuinely open for the first time in years. I learned to enjoy my own company. I didn't need someone to fill the silence anymore. That was a turning point. Months turned into a year. The divorce faded into paperwork stored away in some digital file. Her name stopped coming up.
People stopped asking.
She became a past tense reference. If anything, I didn't hate her. I didn't even think about her unless something reminded me, and even then, it was just a passing thought, like remembering a movie you watched once and didn't care to revisit. I met someone eventually. It wasn't planned. We weren't introduced by friends or through a dating app. We met at a bookstore. Oddly enough, the same place I'd once seen my ex. She asked about a book I was holding and we just kept talking. There was no performance. No trying to impress. It felt easy. Natural. I didn't feel the need to hide anything, but I also didn't feel the need to explain everything. The past didn't control the moment. That was new. She didn't ask about my ex. Not right away. And when the topic finally came up, I told her the truth plainly. No dramatics, no bitterness. Just facts. She nodded and didn't flinch. That's how I knew I was ready, because I could talk about it without feeling like I had to prove something. Without feeling ashamed.
She didn't see me as damaged. She just saw me.
We didn't rush. I wasn't in a hurry to define anything. I had learned the value of patience, of watching things unfold slowly, of letting people show you who they are without forcing the narrative. She was consistent, honest, present. It was never about grand gestures. It was in the little things, texts that made sense, plans that were followed through, words that matched actions. That kind of stability became more attractive than anything else. I realized then how much I had settled before. How many red flags I had painted green just to keep the peace. How many uncomfortable moments I had rationalized as normal. With her, there was none of that. No guessing. No games. And most importantly, no lies. It felt unfamiliar at first, being with someone who didn't make me question my own instincts, but it became the new standard. We built something slowly. No declarations, no pressure. Just two people choosing each other every day, without obligation. I didn't tell her everything about what happened in my marriage. She didn't need the details. What mattered was that I wasn't dragging the weight of that betrayal into something new. I had dealt with it, accepted it, let it go. One day, I looked around my apartment and noticed it had changed. Photos of places I had actually been, not things I pretended to enjoy. Books I'd read, gifts from people who stuck around. My life had become mine again, not a performance, not a compromise, just honest. That kind of ownership felt good. There were moments I remembered how it used to feel when everything fell apart. The cold realization, the silence that followed, the anger I swallowed. But those memories didn't sting anymore. They were just markers of growth, evidence of survival. I had been burned, but I wasn't scarred. She reached out one last time. A message from a new number. Said she just wanted to say she hoped I was happy, that she was sorry, that she had finally understood what she did. I didn't reply. Not out of malice, but because there was nothing left to say. Her apology wasn't for me. It was for her. And I didn't need it. My healing didn't require her participation. I archived the message and moved on. Not because I needed to prove anything, but because the version of me who would have obsessed over it was long gone. He had done his part. He endured it. And he walked away. Now, when I think about love, I think about peace. Not passion, not intensity, not desperation.
Peace.
The kind that doesn't require translation. The kind that doesn't come with a disclaimer. I know what I want, what I won't tolerate, and what I deserve. And that clarity came from loss. From choosing myself when someone else didn't. That's what infidelity does. It shatters the illusions you build. But it also forces you to rebuild better. To ask yourself hard questions. To stop pretending. To become honest, first with yourself, then with everyone else. I don't regret leaving. I regret not doing it sooner. I regret the time spent trying to fix something that was already broken beyond repair. But I don't regret learning what I learned. The pain made space for something real. And in the end, that's what mattered. Not how it ended, but how I rebuilt. Quietly. Completely. On my own terms.